If the severely bloated and hugely thrown together nature of this year's two-night WrestleMania extravaganza is anything to go by, expect this list of squabbling, disagreements, and snubbing to be added to before long. But right now, it's time to focus on those controversial Mania occurrences, from landscape-shifting walkouts to real-life misbehavior massively influencing the results on the grandest stage, that have already been infamously written into the history books. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are the 10 most infamous WWE WrestleMania controversies. Number 10, CM Punk wants nothing to do with the game. WrestleMania 30. CM Punk clearly felt that 2014 was a now or never moment in his WrestleMania and wrestling career in general. So the second it became clear that he was once again being nudged out of the Mania main event spotlight in favor of a returning part-timer in Dave Bautista, the voice of the voiceless was already considering calling it a day. The additional runner-up prize of taking on the boss's son-in-law at the 30th iteration of the grand event was the straw, along with his health in general being at an all-time low that ultimately broke this chick magnet's already buggered back, however. Walking out on WWE on the back of the Royal Rumble that saw him getting concussed during the titular bout, Punk's departure arguably acted as the catalyst for what would become one of the most celebrated images in Mania history, that being Daniel Bryan's main event victory. But this legendary moment undoubtedly came at a controversial price, with Punk emphatically slamming the door shut on McMahon, and later winning a civil lawsuit against WWE Dr. Chris Amann too. Number 9, Hulk Hogan gets a sudden title shot, WrestleMania 9. Adding to an already deeply disappointing evening, instead of thoroughly backing a star who at one point seemed like Vince McMahon's new main man, the ball was once again handed over to a returning Hulk Hogan, in what would become the show's impromptu main event. With Bret Hart and Yokozuna already pointlessly duking it out inside of Caesar's Palace, good old Hogan would finally save the day post Salt in the Eye shenanigans. Then, before those in attendance and around the world, and Yokozuna and the Hitman for that matter, knew what had hit them, another era of Hulkamania and Hogan WWF title reign was well underway, after yet another McMahon last-minute decision to head in a different direction. Number 8, SIKA is livid over Roman Reigns' treatment, WrestleMania 31. While the sight of the Beast incarnate hurling his successfully defended Universal Championship at the Boss post poorly received Mania 34 show closer quickly became the stuff of infamous legend, that controversial turn of events pales in comparison to the all-out carnage that was very nearly kicked off 3 years earlier. What was very much being billed as the crowning moment of the big dog's then divisive singles career very quickly took a turn for the unexpected at Mania 31, as Seth Rollins pulled off the heist of the century. Unfortunately, nobody had told Reigns' father Sika about this last-minute change of main event plan. Cue the Wild Samoan reportedly looking to start a war backstage, and the Anoa'i family in general struggling to keep their composure over the tribal chief being seemingly screwed out of his big moment. It clearly had a lasting impact on the rest of his career. Number 7, Ronda Rousey loses her first singles match, WrestleMania 35. In Ronda Rousey and the star's near-perfect rookie year, McMahon and his gang crafted a run that made the former UFC bantamweight champion feel like the women's division's answer to a certain beast incarnate. And things were going just swimmingly until the time came for the baddest woman on the planet to eat her first ever pinfall loss, with the evident favourite heading into the bout despite Rousey's dominance, tying the Raw Women's Champion up in a pinning predicament. Becky Lynch was able to come away with a dodgy-looking winner-takes-all victory, despite Ronda's shoulders very much not both touching the mat. As it goes, this screwed-up call was not supposed to end the night's main event. The referee responsible for the botched calling of the match was subsequently fined for his mistake, so you can bet whoever is in charge of calling the action for Rousey's Mania 38 battle will be thoroughly on their guard come April 2nd. Number 6, Stone Cold Steve Austin wants nothing to do with Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 18. 2002 saw an era when both the Texas Rattlesnake and the immortal Hulk Hogan were both strutting their stuff within the WWE landscape. But instead of pitting the Hulkster against the bionic redneck at Mania 18, the still mouth-watering alternative of The Rock versus the NWO leader was switched in instead. According to Jim Ross, Steve is a stubborn guy and he just didn't feel it, with the legendary announcer citing Austin's belief that the pair's styles wouldn't mesh well in a match together as his reason for not being on board with the concept. However, Hogan was clearly still very much up for the bout and couldn't understand why Austin wasn't a fan, admitting, "I've got no idea why Steve didn't want to have a match at WrestleMania. I don't know if he has a problem with me personally." The beer-drinking titan would admit to turning down the idea in both 2004 and 2005 too. Hulkamania clearly has nothing on KO Mania. Number 5, Ric Flair's Crimson Mask causes outrage, WrestleMania 8. WrestleMania 8 very much acted as a night of two blade jobs. boss, with the Hitman's version ultimately saving him from the wrath of his boss. Ric Flair, on the other hand, wasn't quite so lucky, as the Nature Boy defiantly disobeyed Vince's edict regarding not intentionally shedding blood under any circumstances on the grandest stage, producing his trademark Crimson Mask in his WWE Championship contest with Randy Savage. Sure enough, McMahon was pissed at his mid-card title antics on the night, reportedly even being on the edge of firing the former WCW man on the spot for his arrogant use of the bloody tactics. Hart, on the other hand, had subtly crafted his blade job earlier on to make it look like he'd actually produced colour hard way, only revealing as such in his book later down the road. And thanks to his excellent execution during his Intercontinental Championship match with Roddy Piper, Bret got off scot-free. Get it? Piper? Scott? I'm gonna move on. Number 4, The Undertaker is on hand to keep HBK in line. WrestleMania 14. Despite news of him still reportedly being a bit of a prick backstage on occasion to this day, it's safe to say that the Shawn Michaels fans know now is worlds away from the a-hole found in the 90s WWE landscape. And very much sensing what version of HBK had shown up to do the job for a white-hot Stone Cold Steve Austin on the night of Mania 14, the resident locker room leader was on hand to make sure the D-Generation X leader did what he was told in the night's passing of the torch main event. With everyone from Austin himself to Jim Cornette confirming the scenario, Taker could apparently be found backstage taping his fists, as Michaels headed out to the ring to defend his WWE Championship. This was a not-so-subtle reminder to HBK that if he didn't do what needed to be done on the night, the dead man cometh. HBK also noted that the Phenom declared to the locker room that he'd have knocked Michaels' head off if he didn't let Austin have his moment on the night. Luckily, when caught between a Taker, a Tyson, and a hard place, HBK made the right call. Number 3, Edge and Randy Orton's cable spot attracts unwanted attention. WrestleMania 36. WrestleMania 36 will likely sit as a night that many a WWE star would prefer to forget about when looking back on their in-ring careers. A returning Edge found himself on the receiving end of a depressing double whammy of sorts. On top of his first one-on-one bout in nearly a decade going down inside of the Performance Center, both the Rated R superstar and Randy Orton found themselves on the receiving end of some unwanted backlash, due to one particular spot in that aforementioned last man standing slog of a match. With Edge being choked by a weight cable as the action made its way through the PC's gym, Dave Meltzer would report that some in WWE were affected by the unsettling spot, due to its connection to the Chris Benoit tragedy which saw the wrestler commit suicide using a weight cable during the infamous event. This, along with the match receiving criticism for its aforementioned bloated length, all added up to a rather disappointing first night back in the single saddle for Edge. Number 2, Shawn Michaels snubs John Cena, WrestleMania 23. With his D-Generation X pal Triple H unfortunately finding himself once again on the sidelines coming into the 23rd edition of the Showcase of the Immortals, Shawn Michaels was seemingly all too happy to step in as a way of salvaging those Mania 22 WWE Championship rematch plans with John Cena that were left in tatters. Yet never one to keep his thoughts to himself should he feel something hasn't quite gone in the way he would have expected, HBK was quick to let rip backstage in the wake of his show-closing encounter with the face that runs the place. As Michaels felt that Super Cena's selling of his leg early into their main event clash wasn't up to standard, Mr. WrestleMania also outright refused to play ball when the time came to shake Cena's hand. Despite the handshaking spot very much being planned beforehand, Michaels wasn't having any of it, and stormed away from the company's top guy post-defeat. The pair clearly got back on civil terms eventually, putting on another near-hour banger on Raw a few weeks later. Number 1, Randy Orton was supposed to win the big one, WrestleMania 22. After apparently working his way back into Vince McMahon's good books on the back of plans to have him and Triple H go at it on the grandest stage over the strap, being scrapped due to his real-life bad behavior, Randy Orton once again squandered a chance of becoming the main. A seemingly redeemed Orton battled against two iconic stars in Rey Mysterio and Kurt Angle over the World Heavyweight Championship on the night. But as he'd note on the Kurt Angle show last year, I want to say they were running with me. They wanted to put the title on me for this triple threat. I could be wrong, but that's my memory anyway. Then I think I got a little bit of heat for some young, dumb, punk sugar honey iced tea that I did, and I think they ended up going with Rey. It's hard to imagine anyone but the legendary luchador walking out of WrestleMania 22 with the strap. Yet had Orton not been a self-professed punk, one of the biggest underdog moments in WWE history may never have even come to pass. And that's our list of any other Mania controversies we missed. Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're there. Also, if you like this kind of thing, head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye!